Hello and welcome to the Athletic NBA Show. It's Wednesday. I'm Dave Dufour. Seth Partnow and Mo to Kill also here. That means it's Nerder, she wrote. Guys, hang on. I gotta start with something. I got a little rant.
That was a very NPR start. Can we amp this thing up?
Okay, do not stop the recording.
Keep this in.
Edit after because
you can't. Yeah. I'm annoyed this morning, guys, because I saw this Mean Girls trailer. And it's amazing. Yes, listen, I don't know what is happening, but it looks like we're getting a remake of Mean Girls. It's a 20, not even, that movie can't drink yet. And we're getting a remake, but like Tina Fey is a part of it. Like she's in it. It seems like the exact same movie, but with TikToks.
Is it at least involved. Set in like Britain or Australia or something?
No, same names, same character tropes. It looks like maybe it's going to be a musical. I can't tell, but man, we are absolutely cooked. So I've started this day off on the wrong foot. So I wanted to just kind of course correct my own day and ask you guys some questions because the NBA season's been pretty good so far, and I need something to just turn this around because man, I just don't. I don't know. There are no words to describe this. The feeling that I had when I saw that they were remaking Mean Girls of all things. I mean, I don't really have strong feelings about the movie, but it's more
they're trying to make fetch happen still.
I have no idea.
It's I believe it's a musical.
Yeah, there you go.
That we have coming out here.
It's great.
I guess there might have been a Broadway show.
It's an awesome time at the movies. Okay, guys, I have to start the show. I have three.
Hold on, no, there are movies I'm excited about. It's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, I have three questions about the season so far, and then we're going to talk about some of the bad teams because we like to do that early on. Because by the time we get to the playoff race, it's hard to get to some of these guys. So to begin, guys, three questions about the season so far because I just want to kind of take the temperature of the room, so to speak. Watched a lot of Nuggets. Nikola Jokic looks better somehow than he has even the last 3 seasons. Like he's just figured out a whole nother level to his game and has made it look pretty easy. I'm getting 73 win Warriors vibes from this team. Are the Nuggets just inevitable at this point to you guys?
As in they'll win 73 games and then lose.
As in this is a 60 win team and they're gonna, gonna make another easy run to the finals.
I think I don't know about an easy run to the finals, but I think they're going to run through the NBA season. I had a worry that they were kind of going to have their foot off the gas a little bit to start the season, a little bit championship hangover and whatnot and things like that. But nah, I mean, from day one, foot to the pedal to the metal all the way, like they're just going hard and going at things. And, the thing that's kind of surprised everybody has been their bench. The production they're getting from their bench, these young guys, the whole concern over the offseason was Bruce Brown's
so
gone.
Funny.
What are they going to do? Jeff Green's gone. This team's going to be, they're screwed. Nah, they're fine because they still have Jokic. And, I think that's the more impressive thing with that. I thought he might ease into the season. And as you said, Dave, he almost looks better than he has at any point when he won the MVPs.
How rare is it for a team to win a title and then get younger and more athletic and not look like they've missed a beat, Seth? I mean, we've talked for years about the Bucks and their big hang up has been a lack of athleticism. And then you look at this Nuggets bench. And I mean, look at their starting lineup. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. is a freak athlete. Aaron Gordon's a freak athlete. Nikola Jokic is actually a freak athlete. But then there's that bench. And it looks like Julian Strawther's another guy that they just happened to find who can play for them. It's incredible.
So we went back a couple years ago, and we may or might not get to the Grizzlies later, but we were talking about when they decided to kind of cycle the bottom of their bench guy or the middle of their bench by letting D'Anthony Melton go, letting Kyle Anderson go. And I think what they were going for is a little bit of what we've seen from from the Nuggets in that, Bruce Brown's very good player. He's very helpful for us to be sustainable as a winner at the level of expenditure that ownership is comfortable with. That's not a spot that we can pay top dollar for. So we have to continually cycle. And we think with Christian Brown, Julian Strother, like other places that we can get that production because we are confident in our ability to identify and develop talent. And I think we're seeing what that looks like when it works. Now, sometimes it goes the other way where as we've seen in Memphis last year, and certainly so far this year, where you make bets on young guys and they don't develop, they don't fit in quite the same way you want. Now, as you said, it certainly helps that you start with Jokic, who is, the biggest like multiplier effect, it seems like, in the league right now in terms of giving other guys a chance to shine.
I mean, you got to give them credit. I mean, Seth, what you said was right on, and they've hit on the young guys, right? Like, we could be singing a whole different tune, had these guys kind of struggled. If Peyton Watson doesn't come out of the gate well, if Christian Brown struggles, if, like all of that stuff, Strother just shooting the piss out of the ball the other day, like it would be pretty surprising. Or jarring, excuse me, would be the right word, where we'd be like, damn, yeah, they do miss Bruce Brown. They do miss Jeff Green. We'd go nuts with all that stuff. But I think that's the thing teams have to do, and try to find that way of like Bruce Brown's contract would have been untenable for them. They couldn't re-sign it. They planned ahead and were well aware of that and made the moves they've had to do that. And I think, you see them loading up on second round picks because they understand that in the future they might have to do that again. And I think that's the stuff there. It is a kind of it's a swing. You just got to hope you hit the pitch. It's a question of, whether you do or not. There's going to be times where some guys are going to hit and some aren't.
There's a possibility also of a virtuous circle here that sort of manifests over several years. Like, all right, this is a good environment. I'm going to sign there. Okay, fine. I signed, the mini mid level or whatever to go there for a year or two. And then I get paid because we're going to be good. I'm going to look great. So I think that's that's certainly, if they are able to keep this going, that's a possibility also, that almost for a place that hasn't necessarily always been like a destination. I think at times in the past, San Antonio's had a little of this. Certainly Boston has had a little of this. At times I'm going to go, rehab my value, get my value up, and then I'll get paid. And that's another way that you can get those ancillary pieces in ways that don't break the budget for you. They're ecstatic that Bruce Brown got paid, I think.
Yeah. It's a good look for them.
Yeah.
Come to us, sign the mid-level or the whatever.
Come play a year, get a ring, get a shot at a ring,
and get a huge contract. Get paid. But, the one guy I think I've been more impressed with, though, besides the obvious Jokic, right? Like anytime you watch Denver, you're like, oh, Jokic, okay, it gets, no offense, nobody get mad at me. It's boring. He's so fantastic, it's boring. It's Michael Porter Jr. Because this was a guy I was concerned about coming in, and I want more. Won my championship. I got paid. I want a bigger role. I want this. I want that. He's come in and has played the same role he played last season. And I'm massively impressed. Maybe I'm just a jerk because I was expecting this and I shouldn't have. Obviously I don't know the kid, but this is something you see with teams like that. And I think it's been very impressive to see him still stay completely bought in.
I think also a thing with Michael Porter Jr., and this continues to run from the playoffs for him, his defensive intensity has stayed up. Yeah. Playoff level defensive intensity. And that's part of why they've looked so good, I think. And for this guy to have made the transformation, and post back injury, by the way, made the transformation that he's made on defense, is pretty incredible. And we already know like what he can do offensively. The guy, like, he literally can go for 40 any night. So
I think this is a credit again to Jokic and sort of the environment he creates. I think it's also, I think we have to again give credit to Michael Malone for kind of instilling a bit of or facilitating the instillment of culture that allows for this to happen. There's an interview that it got surfaced again this week. It was, I think, or recently, Steve Kerr was getting interviewed by Bob Myers, and he talked at length about, all right, the important part for building a culture is what am I about? Okay, one of the things I'm about is joy. So I can't just say joy. I have to make that part of our thing every day. And it seems like Michael Malone has done whatever his sort of core values are. He has managed to infuse that throughout their basketball program so that, all right, well, we're playing together, we're sacrificing, we're doing this. If you listen to the quotes that are coming out of Porter Jr. or Aaron Gordon, it's like Aaron Gordon, who's been around, is talking about how, these are going to be the best years of my basketball life. And you're asking me if I'm okay doing the dirty work. Like, we're winning titles. I'm playing great. I get to play with that guy. And you're asking me if I'm okay. Of course I am.
He's going to Serbia every summer.
This is
right?
awesome.
Like, I'm sorry, man, but Aaron Gordon is like, he's like free meals in Serbia for the rest of his life.
I've done the other thing. I've been the man on a bad team. I've done that. This is so much better. And I think that's, that's credit to the players. That's credit to the coaches, credit to Jokic for that being the environment.
It's not quite Iguodala, because I think Iguodala had a better career by the time he got to the Warriors, but it is similar, right? Like Aaron Gordon, like you said, he was the number one guy, gets traded over there. All of a sudden his life and job gets so much easier. And look at, and as far as his two-way play goes, I mean, no doubt in my mind that I think he's a better player overall now, even as a less total productive offensive guy. He's so much more efficient, defends at a higher level. I think even his rebounding is better. So
it was because he was just so poorly miscast.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I mean, that's really so obviously, when you put the person in the right role, they're a better player. Just like, if you pick the right actress for the Mean Girls reboot, it might work. No,
I can't. We can't do this. Okay. Well, all right. That's enough.
Can we put it just to put a point on that? And that's, I think, all of that plays into, instead of them kind of resting or like, we're going to go back and win a title again. It's like, I can't wait to play again tomorrow. I'm going to go to a different sport, but there's a documentary I watched about Pep Guardiola's Barcelona team, and Thierry Henry, great player who was kind of past his prime and wasn't like the best player on that team anymore. He talked about the game would end. They would have won 3-0. It's like, we don't get to play anymore. Game's over. Damn. And there's almost a little of that feeling about them too. Just like being this good, this in sync, this is fun, and you want that to keep going as long as possible.
Yeah. All right, guys. Question 2: is the Bucks defense just broken? They have not looked great with Damian Lillard at the point of attack versus Jrue Holiday. Wait. Since the change, I'm not blaming anything. But since the change of point guard, they've not looked great this year. I'm not sure if is this just early season trying to figure it out, trying to ease in. Is this Brook Lopez, Giannis are kind of hitting the aging curve? What's happening with their defense? Is it broken, or is this just very small sample?
I think there's a lot of everything. I wrote about this a little bit for The Athletic this morning, and Eric Name has written, of course, a bunch about this already to start the season. I think there's some element of like getting slapped in the face by small sample size. Like their opponents are shooting the hell out of the ball from three and from mid-range, especially in transition. Like they're giving up too much transition, and also opponents are making every three in transition, it seems like. At the same time, they're allowing too much transition because they're and this is something you get. It's jarring watching them, having seen the very sort of stable bud ball of the last 5 years. Their transition defense is disorganized. And so they're giving up a huge 50% higher than league average the league average around 30%, around 44% of live ball rebounds their opponents end up in transition. And that's just a huge deficit to overcome, no matter how well you actually defend once you get back. If you're allowing an opponent to play fast, you're in trouble. And then in the half court, I think first 4 or so games of the season, they were kind of experimenting with different ways to use Brook Lopez, and they were just getting killed at the rim. And since then, they've gone back to more of a little bit what we know works, and they were allowing something like 80-something% at the rim through the first 4 games.
Right.
And it's been down in the low 60s in the last couple. Now, that tiny sample sizes, but that sort of aligns with, maybe the defensive player of the year, when we stick him under the basket guy, should be under the basket. When they got back to that a little bit, has helped a little bit. But so it's a combination of they're not playing hard enough. There's messing around a little bit with the scheme, and they're getting beaten by the variance stick.
I also just think the other thing too is the biggest thing after the trade when people brought up you lost a lot of defense was you have Giannis and Brook, you're fine. No, you're not. You're not. And you've lost a lot defensively. I think this is also a moment to understand what Drew Holiday brought to that team defensively in terms of everything that he did. I know the issues on offense and all that stuff, but defensively, we talked about it almost immediately after the trade, just how much easier he makes Brook Lopez's life in drop coverage because he's fighting over the top of screens. And, so now the defensive stalwart in the starting lineup on the perimeter is, Beasley. Like, okay. Like, this is like, it's those are the things where you're just like looking at it, and it's not surprising that their defense is bad. The transition numbers are bad. That's a bit surprising, but I'm not surprising their defense is bad. And everybody always just says, hey, just put Giannis on the perimeter. That's not an easy answer. That doesn't fix your problems. And these are things like this is going to be a concerning playoff issue for them. Like these are playoff problems that they're going to have to figure out how to answer. And I think there's a lot of those issues that we're going to be looking at throughout the course of the season. I think they're going to do a whole bunch of things. Defense isn't going to get better if you don't have better defensive personnel.
There's also a reason why Giannis, even in high leverage situations, wasn't necessarily guarding like the best perimeter player of opposing teams. I mean, that's not utilizing him to his greatest strength, which is sort of being a weak side guy who can just swoop in and create chaos, right? Brook Lopez is supposed to be the stability, and then Giannis gets to create chaos as a helper. And if you have him guarding the ball, like he's just not able to do that. Also, he gets screened. I mean, it's not like he's this amazing screen navigator. He's huge. He's big. You don't want to get him on the ball. So I never have seen that as sort of a solution. I mean, like him trying to guard Jimmy Butler. It's not an effective way to go. Plus, it gets into foul trouble. Seth, you got anything else on the Bucks?
No, I think that I like slight point of disagreement with Mo. I don't think there's any surprise that their defense is worse. I think their defense being actively bad thus far, I think, is a little bit of a surprise. Like, if you'd told me they were 16th in defense right now, yeah, sure. Like, it's not great, whatever. If they told me the end of the season, like 12th, 14th, 16th, if they're in the 20s, I would be very surprised by that. Well, let's put it that way.
I'm surprised that you're surprised by that. When you just look at their perimeter defenders, like just when you look at their guards and stuff like that, who's getting a stop? Who do you trust to get a stop? Like I look at their guards, and it's like, okay, we're just going to be dependent.
Like that's their best defensive.
Thing is, it's going to be worse in the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
this is the problem.
It's a playoff problem for them. Yeah. I'm that's going to be the thing I'm going to be harping on all season is called what's a playoff problem for these teams, and this is a playoff problem for them. Their backcourt defense is going to be atrocious. And you're going up against teams that have legitimate good backcourts. Like it's not like you can just get away with it. And just assuming Brook can erase everything at the rim, Giannis can come running in from the weak side, puts a ton of pressure on those guys. And that's a big deal. And so it's like, I'm surprised by the transition defense, but I think that might have to do more with the coaching change and the philosophy behind those things. But I'm not surprised their defense is bad, because I didn't expect it to be good or average. This is one of those things. I just looked at their guards and was like, oof, who's getting a stop?
So this
I
is
feel
almost
completely
like
differently now as far as like Boston and Milwaukee. I probably have flipped on them. So already this season, just Boston has looked seamless. It's been perfect. And I thought
I have my issues with them.
I've got some issues too.
On another pod, but we can.
I think defensively it's been seamless. I mean, Kristaps Porzingis has just been incredible.
Go read Jay
all for
King's
the-
article in the Athletic on Porzingis's defense and how they're using him.
Yeah.
Can't win the title in November, though.
You
So,
can't. No,
yeah.
you're right. You're right. But it's building blocks.
Only Denver.
Okay.
Only Denver can.
That's true. Hey, I'll give it to him. Okay. Third question. Last question to start the season, guys. The Sixers. Surprisingly, they've been pretty good. Do you guys believe in the Philadelphia 76ers? And if not, what do you need to see to make you believe?
I get nervous anytime a team is just going to depend on Kelly Oubre. He's been awesome to start. He's been great to start the season. I mean, he's shooting unbelievable from lights out and all of those things. But I have seen enough from Oubre at several different stops. And, maybe it's the Aaron Gordon thing and he's in the right role now or whatnot. But I feel like he's been in the same role everywhere. And I just feel like, cool, Oubre in November, freaking awesome. Like, I wonder what Oubre in March looks like. Like, I just feel very nervous depending on that.
There's that. I do think we do have to give credit that it's not just like he has not just been like shooting the piss out of the ball and like he's shooting the ball well, but not like outlandishly. He's also been playing well on top of this. And I think that you talked about what the difference like a shift in philosophy and system can play. I think Tobias Harris getting to do more than stand in the corner has probably been, he's been a guy who's been one of those like because he was overpaid for what he was producing, he became a bad player in people's minds. And it's like, oh yeah, no wait, Tobias Harris is actually pretty good if we let him do some stuff. But the fact that like all of their top 4 guys are all shooting like low 40s from three, it's like, okay, you kind of expect that to come down. But I think that, I'm not going to dismiss it, but I think I agree with Mo that I've been a Kelly Oubre skeptic over his career. So I'm going to need to see it for a lot more than 2 weeks. But if we're having the same conversation about like that top 4 guys of Embiid and Maxey and Harris and Oubre, and the conversation is about the same in January, I think that's, we definitely have to take notice of that.
I'll say this. They have a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense. Now it's early. Okay. They also are second in net rating behind Boston and ahead of Denver. So they've had a very good, like statistically, had a very good start to the season. Is it sustainable?
I mean, some of it too is let's wait till we start to see some real challenges here on the schedule. You get to beat up on Washington, no problem, and so on. There's going to be some fun games coming up here. They got Boston twice this month and all of those things. But one thing I'm going to say, and this is going to be the compliment for Philly. I think we started the season with like, hey, it's just a top 2 team in the East, just a top 2, and then everybody else. Like, they're right there. I mean,
or it might be, and they just might be one of the 2.
And they might be the other 2. That's very true. That's very possible. So
you guys like the pieces that they added here in the Harden trade? I mean, like Covington and Batum. I mean, it's at least a couple of. I mean, they can play, right?
I like the pieces they got back. Like, I don't think they're earth shatterers or whatnot, but like, there are guys that make sense, and that Nick Batum helps you win games. I've watched enough of him with the Clippers that he just does kind of.
Well, he might be
small things.
An upgrade on the PJ Tucker role, right? Like, I mean, as a guy who can space the floor and play some defense, and
because he'll actually shoot the 3 ball when it comes to him. Like, that's kind of a key thing there with Tucker the past few years. His attempts have dropped, but the thing with it is like he just does so many other things. And on a team, let's just be honest, when you're looking at the East, you're chasing Boston right now.
Right now. Yeah.
And you need long, lanky guys to go at their long, lanky guys. Not saying they could stop them, but they can give them some trouble. They can give them a little bit more challenging situations and those things. So I think like for me, those guys make sense for them. Like, I think they'll be helpful for them. Like, I think I like the pieces they got from the trade. I like the roster they have. I'm just saying, I'm just scared of Oubre. Like, I'm just like, okay, like he tends to do this and then break people's hearts later in the year. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, and honestly, like their biggest questions aren't Kelly Oubre. It's Joel Embiid, and their questions about Joel Embiid are questions that can't get answered now. They're going
Right.
to, they're questions that better or worse, he can't even ask until May. So, we're going to take a little bit of a wait and see on that, because it's a guy who has had some problems both staying on the court and has frankly been the best player on teams that have lost some series they shouldn't have.
Yeah, and I think also we got to give him a little bit more love. Like, I know all the attention is on Jokic and whatnot. The fact that he's averaging 6.2 assists this season, which I believe is a career high for him by a lot, like 2 more than last season, like that says a lot. Double-digit rebounds, averaging 28 something points a night. Like, he's doing a lot of things right for Philly in that sense. And I know, and Seth, you're right. Like, they're the team that they've taken the mantle from Denver, and like, you have to prove it to us now in the playoffs. We don't give a damn what you do now, but you got to prove it to us in the playoffs. And if you don't get to the conference finals, it's a failure and your career sucks, and go live under a rock. Like,
Well,
that's going to be kind of the attitude we're all going to have about it. So I think that's the thing. But to start the season, he's been really freaking good. Like, I don't think we're talking like we talk about, Jokic and all that. He's not getting the shine he should, and I understand why, but he's been really good. The passing's been great.
Is there a sense of we talked about with Denver about playing with a sense of joy, and we hinted on it with Tobias Harris a little bit, is not playing Harden ball.
It's maxi ball. It's maxi ball. It's not just not Harden ball. It's maxi ball.
And the difference
Tyrese Maxey is electric.
No, the difference is, like, I think we've all played, various levels and stuff like that. You can handle somebody being a gunner if they do it quickly. It's the stand and watch for 15 seconds and then someone take a bad shot. And, I think for a guy like Tobias Harris, I'm going to stand and watch, and you want me to play defense and run through. It's like, I've done some things in this league, and that's what you want me to do. And that's what I get to do every game. This sucks. And no matter how professional, and there's never been any question about Tobias Harris's professionalism. I mean, he's, it, like, at a certain level, like, you're punching a clock rather than playing with that sense of joy. And maybe they're getting a little bit of that between that and perhaps a new voice in the Mo. Let me tee you up for that one.
No, I'm not going there. I'm just gonna go with, you mean playing with James Harden isn't fun? Like, I mean, he was on a leash, he felt like, the whole time he was in Philadelphia and all of that. You don't feel like it's fun? No, but I want to go to Maxey here real quick, because that's another dude. That type of player in the playoffs has not had a ton of success.
Right.
And that's the question now. Like, regular season kills it. Usually that type of player is a 6 man of the year type player and whatnot. But, like, let's see what he does in the playoffs, because that's
when it's 7 games of being guarded by Drew Holiday.
Tatum. But we just discussed Milwaukee's defense, so I'm not worried about them. But when you have to deal with that though for 7 games, it's a very different type, and just that type of player, I'll be fascinated to see how that plays, because they're leaning so much on him now, as they should. But I'll be very curious to see what that does in the playoffs.
Do you feel comfortable saying that Maxey has graduated out of that sort of that Tyler Hero, CJ McCollum, the Anthony Simons kind of
small guard who can
small offense? Is there anything he can show you during the season that will make you feel that, or is that just always?
There's a reason why graduations are in May and June, Seth.
God, I teed you up for that one. That's great. That is like,
good night. I'm out. See y'all later.
The World Series ended, but Mo is still hitting dingers on the hanging curveballs.
Line right there. You guys want to talk about some bad teams now?
We didn't. All right. No, just kidding. Just kidding. Sorry.
So early in the season, I tend to watch. I watch everyone, right? But that changes as the season goes on. It gets, the higher leverage games, the teams battling for playoff positions. Those games tend to matter more. And I don't do this scattershot approach to catching NBA games and then watching on Synergy that I do to start the season. So to start the season, I wind up watching a lot more bad teams than I do later in the season. Just makes sense as I'm trying to get a feel for young players, and again, just knowing that I'm not going to be watching Portland in March and April. Those games will be pointless. So, guys, I've been watching a lot of the Portland Trailblazers lately, and man, they've got some guys. Scoot Henderson's had some bad injury luck. Obviously, Anthony Simons is out, but Shadon Sharp,
Robert Williams.
Robert Williams out for the season, but Shadon Sharp looks really good. Really good. Like, this guy can't go back to coming off the bench.
He never should have been coming off the bench for them for this year. Like, that shouldn't, I get the Simons stuff. Sorry, everybody who gets mad about this. Simons is a six man. Sorry, he's not. I don't think he's starting level. Sorry, but Sharp has to be starting. He's got to be your two guard on this team. Like, he's been awesome, and what he showed in the first of their two games against Memphis, in overtime and in end of regulation with that big block on Kennard, and then overtime with making plays. Like, I think you just look at it going like, hey man, like, that's a dude. And I was slow to come around on him. I was very didn't know much about him. We knew the mystery stuff with the draft and things like that. He came on really strong at the end of last season, but I'm very skeptical of that because it's nice when those games don't matter. You get to do all that stuff. So it's interesting now to watch the way he's playing and coming on. Like, I've been very impressed with him, and just seeing him kind of continue to develop. Like, this is a guy like, they got for sure have at least one dude in Portland.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 20 a game. His shooting splits are pretty good. I mean, it's 45% overall from the field, 38% from three. Good free throw shooter. By the way, shooting like 6.5 threes a game. So high volume, good 3-point shooter. I mean, I think this guy has a chance to be a star. The way that he can score, the various ways that he can score. Seth, you like his game?
I do. I was like you, Mo. I was sort of not sure what to make of him, and I actually kind of enjoyed what I saw from him at the start of last season, not just before kind of he got a little more of the keys. In that, for whatever reason, they were able to put him in a role where he kind of had to earn playing time, and he started this season. A lot of young guards with this sort of profile come in and they're just chuckers who play no defense. And he basically didn't get the ball and had to guard to be on the floor. And I think that just putting that imposing that structure on him, I think, even though on a bad team, has sort of has instilled a degree of this is how we go about it. So you can be not just get your numbers up, but how you play basketball well. And so I think that they, luckily enough, were able to set that foundation for him. So that's encouraging. And then, as you say, started the year off really well. I mean, obviously a Henderson, Sharp backcourt is very intriguing as far as building blocks for a team that's hitting reboot. And honestly, just looking at their roster and who they have, even with the injuries, it's just like, I don't, we were talking about them as maybe the worst team in the league, and I don't think they're a bottom 5 talent team in the league, especially if like what we're seeing from Sharp so far is in any way real. So I think that they might, from a talent standpoint, they are far better off than the team often is when they kind of flip the switch and tear it down.
Well, I mean, they started out with having Shadon Sharp already on the roster. Yeah. That's a huge plus. And then to be able to luck into Scoot because he wasn't taken second. And by the way, haven't seen enough of Scoot for me to sell any stock. I'm not worried at all about a slow start from a guy like Scoot. How about DeAndre Ayton?
You just trying to get me to like mad.
No, so all right.
Go Seth. I'll respond. Go Seth.
No, I think DeAndre Ayton has sort of fallen into that role of, for whatever reason, maybe he gets paid a little too much. Maybe we don't love him for these reasons. He's talked about, like, let's put it this way. There was open questions. I don't think we had those questions. I think we rightly called it at the time. But when Phoenix swapped him for Nurkic, there were some people as well, and they got better in the center because they can't rely on DeAndre Ayton. Well, it's like, okay, maybe it's not a high bar, but he's so much better than Yusuf Nurkic. And he is a talented player who is productive, and maybe he does things that we don't love, but it's sort of, I think it's an indictment of Phoenix that he was basically flotsam in, like he was the matching salary in the Drew Eubanks trade. Is possibly how that's gonna gonna play out. And I think that's a for a team for any team really, like mismanaging your sort of your playing staff, your assets, your asset base, your ability to turn the first overall draft pick into nothing. Like that's a problem. And I don't want to pick on Phoenix too much because like the die was somewhat cast, and that trade was the result of some things that happened earlier. I think we're going to get to the Pistons, and I'll talk about this a little more later. But I just, on some level, a team and organization has to take some culpability when a talented player is just, we just don't want him.
Yeah, no, the Phoenix stuff, you're right. But like, just here's my thing about DeAndre Ayton. He's not a dude that's going to help you win at the end of the day. Like, and maybe that's perfect for Portland right now. But like, I was off on him early last year. The year they made it to the finals, he had an incredible playoff run, and he just didn't come back at all into, I'm here to ball, right? Like that simple. And then we know everything that happened in Phoenix and how that can affect a young player. Cool. I had issues with him during that finals run. I was screaming it to you guys all the time. The dude doesn't play with the aggressive manner that you need from your center at that point in the way the game is played now, right? He's too much. Hold on. He's too much of a finesse guy. He's too much of that stuff. And it's just, listen, Portland, I hope you love fadeaways because you're going to get a whole bunch of them. And it's coming and it's stuff. I already have Portland fans in my life that are already complaining about it. I just think there's that level of that stuff. So for me, it's just like, DeAndre Ayton's a minute eater for them. They're going to go through this stuff with him. I don't think he is. I think he's a good player. He has a lot of talent, but I don't think he's actually ever interested in utilizing it. And I think that's a problem.
I do think we do need to keep in our minds there's a difference between should be better and is bad. And I think that I don't think you can find any disagreement from me or really anyone that DeAndre Ayton, because of his ability and the fact that when he's utilized it, he has been much better, that he should be better. Yes. But he should be better just based on, if nothing else, just that talent and physical stature. He's already he's pretty effective. He's not great.
The baseline is good.
The baseline is good though. Like he's not a bad player. And you might be right based on he maybe isn't like a building block that you win with. But, I think we just did that little bit of nuance. Should be better doesn't mean bad.
No, that's fine. But I just, again, I'm going to stop here with all of this stuff. But the dude is just, at the end of the day, what you need from him and what he can be, and he can be that building block and should be that building block. But honestly, doesn't appear to want to be that building block. And that's a dude you can't win with. It's just that simple, man.
On the other hand, I'm perfectly fine with the team in Portland situations. Like maybe we can. Maybe Chauncey Billups, maybe the next coach, whenever that comes, like is able to find a way to, to bring that out of him. Probably not, but it costs you Drew Eubanks to find out. So,
right.
Like,
I'm not mad at, like you said,
Drew
it's an
Eubanks
upgrade
trade.
over Nurkic. Like I'm not mad at Portland for making that trade. And in that sense, it was a definite upgrade. There's no arguing that at all. It's just like at the end of the day, it's like when Portland people or other people are like, oh, they got DeAndre Ayton. I'm like, man.
I can't wait to rehash this when we do our Are We Worried About the Phoenix Suns Yet? In a couple of weeks.
I can do it now. Yes.
Yeah. All right. How about Detroit? You guys, I've been watching a bunch of Detroit.
Clear the runway.
Oh yeah. Been watching a lot of Detroit. Cade Cunningham, pretty good. They're not a good team, by the way. They're bad. Last year they were bad and sad. This year they're bad and a little bit more fun. I think that's good progress.
They're bad and make me mad.
Okay.
We're at the rhyming portion of the podcast.
Yeah, no.
Welcome to the Cat in the Hat. here on the Athletic NBA show.
I don't know how much more evidence we need that Killian Hayes is not a good NBA player and is not going to be a good NBA player and is bad in ways that like
is he blackmailing the coaching staff?
It's this is like some like message sending nonsense. Like, oh, we want Jaden Ivey to do this, do that. Marcus Sasser can't do this, that yet. It's like, yeah, but they're both better. And like this guy isn't going to be a go forward guy for you. I hope you know this. At least if you don't know this, then oh boy. But you've got a high lottery pick who's got massive talent that you're sending a message to by playing a guy who shoots under 40% every year, like under 40% like effective field goal percentage at this point. Even there's been, I think since 81 season, there's been about 25 guys who have started over half their team's game with a below 40% effective field goal percentage. He would be the first guy in about 10 years to do that. And you're saddling Cade with this. You're blocking your other young guards. You're not getting the spacing you need on a team that already is going to struggle for spacing because you're playing Isaiah Stewart, who's done well, but you're playing Isaiah Stewart at the 4 and Jalen Duren, who's been great, but he's not a floor spacer, obviously, at the 5. So this is just sort of, it's early and maybe it'll work itself out, but man, you're not getting your best development reps by saddling talented players like Cade and Asar Thompson.
Alec Burks is playing more minutes than Jaden Ivey.
Now he's been sick. Ivey's been sick the last couple of games.
So. But even when healthy, I mean, Alec Burks, he's a pretty good player. But what are you doing? What's the point?
That's more the question.
Yeah.
What was Detroit's plan coming into the season, right? Like, are we developing young guys? If we're developing young guys, it makes no sense that Jaden Ivey and Saucer aren't playing. It's just not playing enough minutes. Yeah. And it's, we talk about ad nauseum. The most important piece to player development is playing time. And doing the whole, and I get it, Monty's trying to come change the culture and all of this stuff and create all those things and things like that. At a certain point, you got to play your guys. You got to play the young guys, develop them, give them reps, let them put their mistakes on film so you can walk through it with them and all of that stuff. He's not going to prove he could defend in practice because you're not practicing hard enough, because that's simply teams just don't. And it's in that stuff. Like it's a lot harder in that sense. I'm done with Killian Hayes. I've been done with Killian Hayes. I don't understand what they're doing with all of this stuff. I just feel like they are hurting themselves long-term with this whole thing of we're not playing our guys. And Seth, we're hopeful it'll pan out. Talking about the previous guy, DeAndre Ayton and Phoenix, it didn't really pan out and it didn't go well.
And are we kind of looking at DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix sort of redux here with Monty Williams and Jaden Ivey? I mean, it's early and it's very early in Jaden Ivey's career. It's early in Monty Williams' tenure in Detroit, but this is sort of the exact same thing that we've railed against this from Monty Williams. So, I mean, are we looking at a repeating?
It's franchise arson. It's franchise arson. It's, fine. You bring a new coach in. You still
hold on. You didn't just bring in a new coach. You absolutely overpaid to bring in this coach.
6 years.
Yeah. And you're not just overpaying by the money you're paying him. You're overpaying by, if it's like, okay, well, these other development things that we're trying, we're just done with now. Like, you spent a top 5 pick and top 5 pick salary on Jaden Ivey, and so now you're just going to be like, nope, that's done. We're done with that. We're turning the page on that. It's just like, you can't afford that. If you're a team starting from where Detroit is, that's not a luxury you have to just like, the worst thing that the worst thing that happens for someone like Ivey is not that they don't discuss, like them discovering he's actually not that good and maybe he's not a go forward piece with them. That's not the worst outcome. The worst outcome is we get to the end of next year when they got to start making decisions on extensions and stuff like that, and they don't know, and they're not giving themselves the chance to know. And again,
well, what we do know is that Detroit brought back Kevin Knox. They signed him today, so just great stuff happening in Detroit. Clearly, they have a vision.
Just another guy to play over Jaden Ivey. Like it's just like that's all we're doing. Like I think I want to go back to Steph's point.
Yeah,
because that's so important. You got to know, right? Like that's the thing. You got to give him the playing time so you can figure out if he's a dude or not. And maybe he's awful. I don't think he will be, whatnot, but maybe he's bad. You don't know right now. And you're going to come to a situation where you got to make a decision. And now it's, do we lose him for nothing? Do we not qualify him? All of these things that you got to decide, and everything that comes with it. You're putting yourself in such an information disadvantage as an organization by not playing him. And I think that's the mistake they're making. And I think it sucks because I think Cade would play so well with him. I think this team, listen, they need to start winning in a way of like, these guys have to learn how to win.
And learn how to not lose, honestly, is a big part of it, right? Like they need crunch time minutes. They need end of quarter minutes. Like they just need to play together. I mean, look, I think we know I don't think we know what Cade is yet. I think Cade is good. I'm not convinced Cade is like this generational guy who's going to uplift the franchise, but I haven't seen enough yet because of the previous couple seasons. He's been in and out. I like Cade a lot. I think the more talent you can put out there, or at least the higher the ceiling. I mean, we haven't even talked about Asar Thompson, who they got to figure out a way to play, right? Like, is he going to be their small ball five sometimes? Maybe. I mean, this guy is such a freak athlete, right?
Like having like 6 other centers on the team that they're paying.
We're going to figure this out, right?
Yeah.
But like they have some talented guys. The idea is you're developing. You need to throw these guys out there together and just see what you got. See what shakes out.
You know what? The spot you don't want to end up. And we see this sometimes where a team is just in such a morass where it's just like, yeah, he hasn't been good so far, but we get him out of there. Let's see what we have. And I worry a little bit that Detroit is becoming one of those spots right now. And like maybe the one of those spots right now in the NBA where it's like, I don't know, because the ecosystem is isn't right.
Yeah. Okay. Last bad team to check in on. And this one, I'm a bit surprised because they had such a promising start to last year. We really believe in their coach. I think they've got a lot of really good players, but man, they don't have any guards. The Utah Jazz kind of stink. Like they don't have, not just they don't have a point guard. Their combo guards don't have any sort of point guard capabilities, like skills. No one on this team, Mo, looks like they want to throw a pass. Or at least none of the guards do. Utah is kind of struggling right now.
I mean, it's something when Taylor Horton Tucker is your lead playmaker for everybody, right? Like, and he's done it. I don't want to trash him. He's done a good job. 5.6 assists a game. Like he's trying and he's trying to do all that stuff. That's just not who he is in that sense. Dave, like one thing I think we're not understanding when we look at last season as this season is nobody's going to be surprised by them this year. I think last year we were so shocked by it. So that at least when you go into Utah, you're going like, hey, these guys were pretty good last year, or they beat us last year because we weren't on top of our game type of stuff. So I don't think you get that again. So I think the surprise element is gone for them to a large degree. Like I like the pieces they have. I mean, they have Seth's favorite player, John Collins. And I think they, it's interesting with that stuff, but they don't have the guy that can kind of just organize them.
And they had that with last year with Mike Conley,
right? Until they traded him. But yeah, and that was a big part to their start of the season, right? They had the adult in the room, so to speak, to say like, all right, now you go here, you go there. When you do that, I'll give you the ball. And I think there's that, like they just don't have that. They're trying, It's not for a lack of effort, but like I just don't think they have the guys.
And I
that are
think they
meant to
knew
do
it.
that.
I think they knew it coming into the season too, because if you recall, they were a team that was sort of after the Lillard trade went down. Utah was a team that got brought up as being in the running for Drew Holiday. Now I don't know if they agree with that, which that is true or not. And I think we may have even talked about it. It seemed like odd with their timeline, but I think we see with how kind of their season has gone with their dearth of sort of steadiness in the backcourt. Why they would think that would be something worth exploring, depending on what the asset cost would have been.
I'm of two minds there because I could see it, right? Like, okay, well, they own Minnesota's draft, like they have a lot of draft assets. Maybe our pick doesn't matter as much. So, hey, if we can also get Drew Holiday, I think they probably are in the top 10, in the West. They at least give themselves a puncher's chance in the play-in. If not, being a 6 seed with a guy of that caliber. And when you think about Walker Kessler, that defense should be pretty good if you add Drew, but also it's Danny Ainge, and Danny Ainge is the king of, well, I was thinking about that guy. So it could also just be PR.
Maybe, but also I think that if they had made an offer that was sort of commensurate with what Boston ended up doing,
of course, yeah,
I don't think we would have liked that for where they are as a as a team. I think if it had come in lower than that and they could have got him, and I think that's we have some fun with the Danny almost. This is an appropriate Danny almost.
Like I just think about it in a sense of just like you don't trade those assets for maybe we're a top 10 team in the West. Like I think that's the kind of difference for me. In that sense, like, you stay the course. Look, we had a surprising year last year. It's the same thing with, and I know I'm veering off course, with Oklahoma City Thunder, and everybody's expecting them to make these, use all your assets to make a big swing trade right now. Why?
Yeah,
we're not there yet.
Karl Anthony Towns.
You're not there yet. And I think that's a thing. I'm glad Utah showed the restraint to like, hey, no, let's load up here on more. Like that's not going to be a situation until we get a home run. And I think, where they're at now, I think also they just want to be bad, and continue to load up on draft assets. And let's see, maybe draft night, what's available. But like, I had no illusions going into this season. I was like, this team's going to be bad.
You mentioned Oklahoma City's draft assets. And I think that one of the things we've had some fun with this week is like the reveal of like the Star Wars style crawl on the Miami culture court. And one of the best Photoshop of it. I said, well, the Thunder should do it and just lift their draft assets. But the problem is it wouldn't fit in the key. It would be like the entire stripe down the middle of one of the in-season tournament courts just to list like all the picks and protections that they have. So I would like that. By the way, I'll take the L. The Oklahoma City tournament court looked great. In actuality, I thought the Oklahoma City one looked really good. I thought some of the other ones.
I mean, I don't want to get into the court stuff because I feel like it's old news, but
it'll be relevant next week, Dave.
I'll just say I've heard some really, really funny stories about the courts and certain technologies that maybe are having trouble with some of these courts. I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'll just say these courts are half-baked ideas at best, and they look better on a video game than in real life. Incredibly distracting to watch basketball when you can't really see the ball. Maybe we need to go with the NHL on Fox and they got to highlight the ball when they're playing on these courts. But as a guy who just wants to watch basketball and be able to know what's happening, these courts are an abject disaster in my mind. So even the Oklahoma City ones looking pretty good was still, what are we doing here? I just want to watch basketball. Just give me the basketball.
I actually, so a couple of the courts, I actually didn't have trouble following the ball in Oklahoma City and Milwaukee were the two where I didn't. The ones like Chicago's and Indy's, and Miami's, So that's why I was skeptical about that, but the OKC one actually surprised me, and I was like, I can tell what's going on.
This is another case of the NBA doing stuff that no one cares about instead of giving me the thing that I want, which is a damn basketball game. That's going to do it for this week show. Wait, Mo's got one more thing. Go ahead, Mo.
No, I do have one more thing.
It was just a perfect time.
I actually like the idea
I don't
what they were
mind it.
doing with the court.
I
I
don't
like
mind
it. Let's
making it
add
feel
it to the
special.
thing. It's
Yeah.
it's let's do that stuff. I just wish
It's
they
like
did a
wearing
better
white
job.
at WrestleMania. That's great. I like
Now
that.
you lost me.
But save it. Make it special. All right. I actually don't hate playing around with the courts, but this is clear. Come on, it's hardwood. That's the whole thing. Like it's played on hardwood, and now you've got them playing on paint.
And that'll do it for
That's it.
guys yelling at clouds.
That's not even yelling at clouds. That's just let me watch
Yeah.
basketball. All right.
Yeah.
For Seth Partnow and Mo DeKeel, I'm Dave DeFore, and this has been Nerder, she wrote, on the Athletic NBA Show.